stand here.
Do my thing.
Do your thing, and then you'll go back the same way so that you have the arm thing. All right, good. Just want to make sure people don't know about this. See, Rich, do you have anything?
Lois
wants to say something too. This is Rich Howland, our sound man.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So you don't need to lean into the mic, just stand
Right.
and talk normal. It's a very good microphone. Yeah.
You can signal me if it's not clear.
Oh, I can hear you
Yeah.
already.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Monmouth County. My name is Linda Stellick. My pronouns are she, her, yeah. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you're welcome here. Our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world. This morning, our topic is Mother's Day service. And our monthly topic has been those who inspire our imagination. Brief digression here. Imagination in my family was always encouraged. My first and most lasting influence is my mother. She was an artist. My parents took me to museums, plays, art exhibits, concerts, and we read insatiably. My mother was highly creative, intelligent, curious, and inquired into everything. Combining her interests, she drew from centuries of Christian art and symbolism and made modern banners and sculptures for the Unitarian, the Universalist, the UU Methodist Church down the street there, and for us. All her life, her viewpoints changed and expanded, even her spiritual beliefs, and she was a spiritual mentor for me. I draw your attention to the back side of your orders of service for announcements and service information for the coming week. For those on live stream and for video viewers, the order of service link is available to you on the YouTube service description box. After the service, refreshments will be served in the community room, and people of all ages are invited to visit with one another. Here's another thing I want to tell you about is our volunteer of the month. Now, I'm not sure if he's here. Is he here? Okay. He is here, okay. Steve Rastatter. He began coming to UCMC after 9/11, looking for a community of like-minded souls who share a vision of embracing what unites us, finding ways to work together to heal what in history has erroneously divided us. Became a member in 2010. Steve began lending a hand wherever he could, helping in grounds cleanups and other work such as painting the curbs. He has served as greeter and usher and sparks up conversations with newcomers at coffee hour. He makes himself available whenever possible with lifting, moving, and setting up gatherings, including putting up tents for celebrations. He's been a caring captain for many years, sending letters, making calls, and forwarding emails of support and concern. Arriving early and staying late, Steve has volunteered from setup to breakdown, cleanup such as events as in-gatherings, soup luncheons, pancake breakfasts, and the auction. Steve has made his favorite soups and salads and desserts for everybody, as well as bringing fun snacks for after services. During COVID-19, Steve led a positive affirmations rock painting project with the kids, which he really enjoyed. He's picked up the holiday tree, helped with the mitten trees, assisted in wrapping gifts. Steve now serves as Vice President at Large and is always ready to lend a helping hand. Do you want to stand up, or you can if you want. If you're new to us, please do check out our website, ucmc.org, where you can sign up to get all the latest news of our congregation by email. We look forward to getting to know you better. Please put your devices on silent as we enter into worship together. Welcome again to this place of love and hope.
I'm the Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano, and I'm so pleased that you have chosen to be here in this community today. I hope that your time as part of us inspires your imagination Imagination, as you heard from Linda, is our congregational theme for the month of May. And today we will hear from a few more of you. Who or what sparked your imagination or provided enough safety for your imagination to take wings? A poet, a friend, colleagues, a parent or parental figure? Sharing our stories is essential to what we do here. It's good to be back in the pulpit. I should think your ears were ringing these past 2 weeks. Not only have I been talking about you at my concert engagements in New York City and in interviews about them, but this past week I brought UUCMC to the Unity Center in Norwalk, Connecticut. And the week before that, I filled in at the UU congregation at Montclair while their ministers are on sabbatical through our New Jersey Leadership Leaves program that provides coverage for ministerial sabbaticals, a service that you will have the pleasure of experiencing when I am gone this coming fall. But it's always good to be back here with you in this precious community we create each time we gather together. On this Mother's Day, we want to acknowledge all those who have spurred us on, who have encouraged us, who helped our imagination to take flight. And of course, we intend that this place, this congregation, will be such a source of enough imaginative power to bolster your ability to hold in your beings truths about who you are, truths about who we are. This in a country where powerful forces seek to curtail the imaginations of many, to corral us into a distorted fantasy of history in which those already victorious, those already with privilege, mount an attack on anyone else's access to dream, to imagine. I remind you that the weekly e-blast is your entry point, or one of your entry points, to actions you can take to help preserve a place for all to be themselves and to at least still imagine a world in which they matter. And so our call to worship this morning, with the word worship understood in its original meaning of a shaping concern for all that is of worth, is also a call to action, written by the minister of the Chalice UU congregation in Escondido, California, the Reverend Sharon Wiley. It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And yet we are all afflicted, and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we here find peace in times of tumult, and may we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness, and may we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be the place where you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place where you imagine for yourself something new, something unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together.
This morning, I'd like to invite Julie and her daughters, Molly and Violet, to light our chalice. We ignite the flame of our chalice this morning in the spirit of imagination with these words from Shel Silverstein. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. Thank you.
I invite us to rise in body and or spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 1053, in the teal hymnal and on the screens, How Could Anyone? We will sing it through twice. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Story today, I have a Chinese folk tale that illustrates the power and possibilities of imagination. Long ago, in a small village in China, there lived a kind-hearted boy named Ma Liang, who loved to paint. Though he had no real paintbrush, he used sticks to trace pictures in the sand, imagining them coming to life. One night, he dreamt of an old man who gave him a magical paintbrush and whispered, "Use this only to help those in need." When Ma awoke, the paintbrush was beside him. Eager to test its power, he imagined and painted a bird, and it flew off the page. He imagined and painted a fish, and it jumped into a river and swam away. Realizing his imagination was a gift, he got to work using the paintbrush to help those in need. He painted food for the hungry and tools for struggling farmers. He painted water for the village and those that were suffering from the drought. But soon, word of the magic paintbrush reached the greedy emperor, who demanded that Ma use it to make him gold and riches. When Ma refused, the emperor threw him in prison and took the paintbrush as his own. The emperor drew many pictures, but none came alive for him. Furious, because the paintbrush was not working, he summoned Ma. "If you create some drawings for me and bring them to life, I will set you free." Ma did not want to serve such a horrible person, but his imagination gave him hope, and so he devised a clever plan. "What would you like me to draw?" he asked. "I'd like to have a golden mountain. I'll go there and I'll look for gold," said the emperor. Ma got to work. Quickly, he painted a sea, followed by a golden mountain far away from the water. "Paint a massive ship immediately," the emperor demanded. Ma painted a large ship and grinned slightly. The emperor hopped onto the ship and set out to find the treasure. But when the ship reached the faraway mountain, Ma painted a hole in the side of the ship so that the cruel emperor could never return and the people would be free. Ma returned to the village and lived a long and happy life. He continued to use his imagination and his magic paintbrush to help others in need. Ma Liang didn't listen to the mustn'ts or the can'ts or the shouldn'ts. He imagined something better, and then he helped create it one brushstroke at a time. At our challenge, we heard the words of Shel Silverstein. "Anything can happen, child. Anything can be." That's what imagination is all about. It helps us see the invisible, dream the impossible, and believe that we can make a difference, no matter how small we are, or how big the world's problems may seem. When I was a kid, Shel Silverstein helped me believe that my thoughts and dreams mattered, that the world was wide open with possibilities, and I still believe that. I believe that each of you has your own kind of magic paintbrush, and that you have to imagine how to use it to help the world. May it be so. And now let us sing our children and youth to their small groups. Go now in peace.
Every week in this congregation, we're provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation, to our social justice partners, through the good works of organizations who receive half the money each month. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of May is the T. Thomas Fortune Foundation, located in Red Bank, and whose initiatives are to educate the public about the impact of T. Thomas Fortune's life and work as a journalist, writer, and advocate for African American history, as well as for human rights and social justice broadly, in response to local, regional, and national issues of the day. The T. Thomas Fortune Foundation also seeks to promote better human relations and journalistic integrity and excellence, especially among the upcoming generations of social justice advocates and truth tellers. For those of you present in the meeting house, the plates will be passed by the ushers. You may also join this time of generosity via text, send your offering by mail, or charge your contribution online with a memo designating an amount to the T. Thomas Fortune Foundation. Please give generously.
These past couple of weeks, I put out a call to you, excuse me, for you to share with us sources, encouragers, instillers of your imagination. I invite Lois Farina, Bill Wilson, and Jane Reskoff to share with us this morning. Lois, Bill, you can come up to the batter's box here.
What did you say?
The batter's box.
Oh, the batters.
It's a baseball bat.
Okay. Batters apply
I don't
to
do
me.
sports metaphors too terribly often, Lois, but every now and then.
I was very fortunate to grow up in a big Italian family. I was the oldest of four. My mother was very creative and artistic, and I learned a lot from her, but I had a lot of responsibility from an early age. As time went on, my mother began drinking, so then I had to deal with alcoholism and being the perfect eldest child. I then was attracted to someone at 15, a man who was handsome, charming, and hiding one side of him that I had no idea existed, which was the cruel side and the controlling side. So being a good girl, I had to obey. I couldn't take rides with my friends. He would try to trick my friends into telling him that I did things that I didn't do because I was forbidden to do them, and so on. Along the way, I was introduced to a woman who changed my life, and her name was Sarah Eyestone. She was a very well-known artist in Ocean Township, and she had been divorced after 4 children, married someone else, and she and I became fast friends. Sarah asked me if I would like to be her assistant, and of course I said yes. I was very excited and attracted to her beautiful, colorful art. We spent a lot of time together. She went into Soho to try and sell her works, and I drove her pink Cadillac, and she did her figuring out. So my life started changing and becoming exciting. I was telling Sarah some of my sad stories and my impasse because I had 3 children. We were all abused verbally and physically. Financially, there were always issues, and I didn't know what to do. And Sarah looked at me, and this was the moment that changed my life forever. And she said, "Lois, your life should be wonderful. And as long as you're with him, it never will be." And with that, she gave me a business card of a friend who was a therapist, and I went. And that changed my life forever. I became strong. I sought help. I came to see that I had value, that I didn't need to be afraid all the time, that I was going to get scolded, or that my kids were going to be harmed. I found a way to earn my own money, and I eventually left. And Sarah and I, all these years, have remained friends, now long distance, as she's in Santa Fe, where she has a position teaching creative writing in La Posada, which is a beautiful resort that she works at and that Dave and I have been to visit many times. And the interesting part is that when we went there, Sarah said to me during her meeting, "Would you mind getting up and telling your story to my group so they can know where you are and what you've been through?" So I did that there as I'm doing this here. And I met Dave serendipitously. We immediately clicked. We've been together now 38 years, Dave. We're both artists, which we didn't know we were artists. We discovered it in one another, starting with adult school, worming our way through. And now we're surrounded by art. We're creative. Dave's learned how to garden growing up in Hell's Kitchen. I had to teach him how to weed, and he pulled the plant and said, I said, get the whole root. And I said, he goes, is this how? I go, yes, but that's a chrysanthemum. So began our life of learning and teaching one another. And we have a beautiful home overlooking the marsh. We have lots of friends. We've traveled extensively in the United States and Europe, never having made a lot of money, just learning how to do things smart. And during a dark period with one of my children, I got a text message from our friend Deb, who many of you may notice, saying she was coming to this church, would I like to go? And I immediately got dressed, got in my car, and drove here. And it's become a home for us. It anchors us at the end of the week, and it gives us a beautiful point to jump off of at the other end. So I'm very grateful that Reverend Craig invited me to speak, and I'm happy to share my story. And my story is a story of hope. I realized after time that my mother wasn't drinking to hurt me. She was hurting herself. And I came to appreciate the love and the beauty that she had put into our lives. And so it's been a win-win, and I thank you all for welcoming me. And David Riley, so my name is Lois Farina Riley because he's half Irish, but he's half Italian, so we have both. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin by saying how blessed I am to be a part of this wonderful congregation and community. And I want to thank Reverend Craig for the opportunity to share some of my feelings and definitions of imagination. I am very thankful for the sacrifices my mother and father made in order to send me to school, where, as part of my journey, my perspective increased. And on that journey, I was very fortunate to come across a gentleman who was a visionary English poet, painter, engraver, and printmaker. His name was William Blake. And for those of you that are not familiar with that name, please write it down, because I'm going to become a little didactic in my presentation, because he is the epitome of the true definition of imagination. He was born on a Monday, 7:59 p.m. on November the 28th, 1757, in Soho, London of the United Kingdom. And he passed away 69 years later on August 12th, 1827. In the process of those years, he expressed his views on imagination, which I'm going to attempt to share with you, because he is my beacon. He is, when I came across his writings, and he's famous for poems of innocence and experience. He has created I have some notes here because I couldn't possibly remember all of this myself. He created over 795 illustrations. But his poems of innocence and experience, I ask you all please to familiarize yourselves with. Getting back to the topic of imagination, he saw Jesus as God, and he saw Jesus as the personification of imagination. And to give you a taste of some of his poetry, I'm only going to read the first 4 lines of Auguries of Innocence, which he wrote approximately 1803. And I ask you to listen closely and to use your imagination in defining what he was conveying in his poetry. The first line of Auguries of Innocence is to see a world in a grain of sand. Now, see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. Now, that is, to me, the personification of what imagination is, what imagination can give us, and what we can give others through believing in imagination. And so I'd like you all to become more familiar with William Blake. And there's a complete graphic works of William Blake that was published with 492 pages and contains 765 of his illustrations. He did illustrations of other poets, Milton and others, but his illuminated verse, which is just astounding, and poems of innocence and experience will, I guarantee you, touch your hearts and your souls, and will be a source of increasing and embracing your imagination. So I'll stop with that. If you have any questions, comments, or whatever, I'd be glad to talk to you at any time. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's me and my shadow. I have to put my shadow down so it doesn't fall and break. When I came back to UCMC after a long absence from getting a divorce and my master's degree, in that order, the original writers group, as I recall, did a lay-led service one Sunday. After listening to their essays, I was inspired. My imagination was sparked by what I heard. Like a delicious piece of chocolate cake, I said to myself, I want a piece of that. I inquired about joining and was welcomed, especially by Flory Hill, a beloved member of our congregation for a long time. And you got me started, Flory. That was the start of a 10-year stint of a once-a-month essays on many different topics suggested by the writers. They quickly became dear friends, never critics, basic taboo number 1. But to write creatively, one needs to use imagination. For me, imagination is like a thought cloud that bursts open and showers you with little droplets of ideas that turn into something more solid and become part of your awareness. One of those droplets turned into a fable about a disgruntled large bear and his nemesis, a tiny, friendly mouse. I told of their burgeoning friendship due to small acts of kindness on the part of the mouse. When the group met each month, each member would read what they wrote aloud. I also read mine to my granddaughters, Emily and Hannah. Years later, when Emily was in college, she asked for a hard copy of The Bear and the Mouse, and Hannah followed suit. They each said that on sleepless nights, it would be nice to read the fable before going to bed, since it relaxed them and helped them drift off into sleep. While reading the tale, I have the feeling that their imaginations came alive. Picturing the kind gestures exhibited by the mouse was apparently a soothing mental image that took them off to dreamland. Or perhaps imagining hearing grandmother's voice, reciting it, helped them drift off. So the role of imagination here had a calming effect from the writer to the reader. I end by paraphrasing a quote you may be familiar with by Albert Einstein. Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. Thank you.
Over the centuries, prayers and invocations have emerged giving thanks to the sources of imagination, to the providers of shelter from that which would stifle imagination, to the encouragers of imagination's flight. On this Mother's Day, we share one such beloved prayer from the canon of the Hebrew peoples of old, as adapted and set to chant by Bobby McFerrin and dedicated to his mother. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all I need. She makes me lie down in green meadows. Beside the still waters she will lead. She restores my soul. She rights my wrongs. She leads me in the path of good things. She fills my heart with songs. Even though I walk through a dark and dreary land, there is nothing that can shake me. She has said she won't forsake me. I'm in her hand. She sets a table before me in the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in her house forever, forever and ever. Glory be to our mother and daughter and to the Holy of Holies, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. When I was very little, I had a book that had a sort of dial in the center. At various points in the story, you would spin the dial to determine where in the book to continue reading. So each time you read the book through, the story changed shape. Something that had happened early in the tale in one reading could be at the very end in another. And something that had seemed like such a surprise in one read would be the starting premise the next time through. I probably still have that book in a box somewhere. I could not find it in time for this service because it made a big impression. It suggested to me that outcomes weren't predetermined, that things could happen very differently if you just shifted your perspective a bit or spun the dial a little harder. I don't remember anything about the book's storylines themselves, perhaps space travel, jungle adventure, ocean voyage. Maybe it was all those things, depending on the spin of the dial. But what stays with me aren't the book's particulars, but the sense that one could create a singular path through a large and diverse set of possibilities. And when I sat down to contemplate what I might share with you on this day, it was this book that came to mind. Both the sheer delight I took in it and the powerful metaphor it suggested, related to the imagination, of having a dial at the center of our beings that we can spin anytime we choose. We've heard from several congregants about persons or personages who sparked their imaginations, who made it possible for them to imagine that another way was possible, that there was wonder and adventure to be had, that they needn't remain captive to the story that had been laid out before them, that others lived journeys perhaps vastly different than their own. I too want to share with you from my life, and in tandem with one of the 2 days when we pay homage to those who raised us, I'd especially like to salute my parents who are watching on the live stream if they could figure out how to get onto it. Not just because they gave me that book with the dial in it, but that they gave me the safety and encouragement necessary for me to take delight and see possibilities in it. My mother and father are both educators and became parents with the idea of instilling in their children the ability always to imagine new paths to take in life. And they led by example. As the distance from my childhood increases, it amazes me more and more that two South St. Louis high school sweethearts with two very young children would say yes to a proposition that must have seemed fanciful, nearly impossible. At the time of my parents' momentous gambit, I think the only family trip we had ever taken was when my dad had a conference in Dallas and we drove to Texas from St. Louis. As I recall, my sister slept in a drawer in the hotel room. That's how young she was. Well, the way they tell the story of their big decision, it was my father who came home one day and said to my mother, "You'll never guess what was offered me today." It turns out that American international schools abroad have sibling schools somewhere in the United States, and that day, my father had found out that his school was one such sibling when it was suggested that he and his family consider spending a year or two in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Now remember, this is before computers, before you could see the opposite side of the world on your phone in a split second, and we were just living our lives in a suburb of St. Louis. I'll bet we didn't even know where Argentina was on the map at that point. And of course, we spoke not a word of Spanish. And the way my parents tell the story, my mother replied to my father, "I think we should look into it." It was like they were spinning the dial at the center of all of our lives with what must have seemed like abandon. And so it was that our young family of four, plus our Brittany Spaniel, took our second family trip, the longest flight of our lives, from St. Louis to Miami, followed by the longest flight of our lives from Miami to Rio de Janeiro, then another flight to Montevideo, Uruguay, and a fourth and final flight to Buenos Aires, one of the largest cities on the planet where we could understand no one. That trip constituted a flight of imagination on the part of two young parents that completely changed the course of all of our lives. When I tell this story in Take the Moment, the concert show that took flight right here in the Earth Room, I say everything we knew to dream about multiplied. We were suddenly people of the world, working at and attending a school with kids from over 40 countries. Soon we were bilingual, and my parents weren't done. Just to give you an idea of how imaginative they had become, our third family trip was a 2-week Antarctic expedition. And what was to have been a limited cultural exchange became the remainder of my sisters and my childhoods. 15 years of getting along across divisions of nationality, language, and religion. The kinds of divisions that can so easily lead, and we saw only too close and up and vividly during that time, can so easily lead to misunderstanding, disaffection, and violence. At least we saw it in the culture around us. At the school, we made it happen. Ultimately, imagination exists as the kernel of perhaps the most important acquired quality of the human mind, that of having the capacity to imagine someone else's life, different from our own. One of my favorite contemporary philosophers, Martha Nussbaum, currently part of the faculty of the University of Chicago, once said in the context of LGBTQ+ lives and the law, and substitute into this, quote, a person for whom you have trouble experiencing any empathy. She said, a terrified gay teenager needs and deserves equal respect and a sphere of liberty equal to that enjoyed by others. Before they are likely to get these things, however, something else also has to be present in our world, the capacity to imagine their experience and that of other LGBTQ+ citizens. Disgust relies on moral obtuseness. It is possible to view another human being as a slimy slug or a piece of revolting trash, only if one has never made a serious good faith attempt to see the world through that person's eyes or to experience that person's feelings. Disgust imputes to the other a subhuman nature. How, by contrast, do we ever become able to see one another as human? Only through the exercise of imagination. I truly believe that what led me to Unitarian Universalism as a medium for my ministry is the diversity of experience at its core, and that includes religious diversity. When I walk up these few stairs and stand at a pulpit with the symbols of the world religions literally carved into the wood it's made of, I take that very seriously, because it's at the center of what I know can happen. People can make community together across differences. People of all or no religious persuasion can come together for worshipful time. And what we create here can serve as a template for our lives outside these walls, just as my international school childhood convinced me that cooperation, friendship, love even, can happen amidst a wild assortment of worldviews and spiritual imperatives. And for me, all perhaps because my parents took a chance, and in the process gave themselves and their children lives rich in diversity, priming us for many imaginative decisions to follow. I hope I never take for granted the blessing that later today I will be with my mother and my father, celebrating their unique, imaginative iteration of parenthood. My prayer is that we all come to know the location of the dial at the center of our lives. And when the times are ripe for adventure, for wonder, for interpersonal encounter, for a richness of imagination, that we learn how to give it a good spin. May it be so. and I invite us into a time of prayer and meditation. I want us to remember all people on this Mother's Day, not only those fortunate as I to have a mother and father with them still, encouraging me every day to take the moments that come to me. I invite us to imagine and to breathe together. Whether or not we are mothers, we all have mothers. Mothers whose bodies nurtured our bodies as they emerged in the darkness. Mothers whose thoughts and feelings swirled through the currents of the womb. Mothers whose oxygen breathed into us helped root our souls into this world. However they nurtured us after, we all had that deep body connection with our biological mothers before birth. Motherhood runs deeply through our lives, as do our feelings about mothering. The mothers of some gathered here have died in the past few years. As we breathe together, let us breathe together. Let us breathe comfort into the hearts of those children who mourn their mothers. There are mothers here who have children who have died, or children lost behind the walls of estrangement which life sometimes places between mothers and children. As we breathe together, let us breathe together. Let us breathe comfort into the hearts of those mothers who mourn their children. There are people here who have always wanted to be mothers, but whose lives never presented them with that opportunity. As we breathe together, let us breathe together. Let us breathe reassurance into the hearts of mothers whose children take different forms, accomplishments, acts of creativity and love, workings of the Spirit. There are those among us who have troubled pasts with their mothers, and those who have troubled presents or futures with their mothers. As we breathe together, let us breathe together. Let us breathe strength and hope into the hearts of those whose connections to their mothers have twists that sometimes cause pain, sometimes distress. And there are those among us who celebrate this day with mothers who are strong, loving, guiding forces, mothers who taught them to laugh, to sing, to cry, to think, to feel, to work, to play, to love, to live, to imagine. As we breathe together, let us breathe together. Let us breathe the gladness and joy of motherhood at its best. Motherhood that nurtures in ways that often can't be seen. Motherhood whose deep connections continue to feed our souls with the breath, the blood, the loving currents of life. Let us breathe together. And amen. And I now invite us to rise in body and our spirit to sing together our closing hymn. It's number 1051 in the teal hymnal, but make note, we'll be singing it as it is on the screens. We Are, number 1051. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For our closing words of benediction, a piece from the minister of the UU congregation in Stamford, Connecticut, the Reverend Terry Dennehy, entitled, Imagine. Imagine we have arrived. Imagine the lush river cannot swallow us or drown out the voices of our hearts. We have come to these eagle-nested shores to celebrate with the drums of dancing feet. We have come, a gathering of wings, arising out of the hard shells of loneliness and into the streets. Out of the violence and the rush of the trains and the drives between, out of the pain of the waiting rooms and the classrooms, the boardrooms and the bedrooms, we are birthing into light. We are holding our palms to the sky, awake and amazed that we can trust the hush, the hum, the hands we fall into like waves. We are listening to the sighs, to the aches of our histories, to the silences pinched beneath skins, and we are learning how to speak our own names, soft and slow now, turned over and over in our mouths, until they shine on our tongues like silver pearls, until something inside of us is a sail, is gratitude, billowing and free. Imagine. Let us go in peace to bless the world with our imaginations.